Pleiadians, tell me how I first met them in Atlantis. Grand solar flash, is it almost here? I don't know about you, but it feels like it's going to be here any second. It's time to enter the portal to the new Earth. Time for you to choose your frequency, drop your attachments. In order to do that, you're going to have to question your reality and then change it. ThunderWizard.com is the website that supports this YouTube channel. Please go check it out. My books can be found at michaelwilliamdenny.com. Please check those out as well. So the Pleiadians, tell me how I first met them in Atlantis. I got to tell you, I can't believe I'm making videos like this. This is not something I would have ever imagined myself doing. So you're not going to hurt my feelings if you think I've, just completely lost it, because I wonder that myself. But I've made the commitment to this channel to be transparent. It means I tell you everything now. I'm not hiding anything from anybody. And I don't claim any of these things to be prophecies. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a channeler. I'm not a psychic. That's just not how I do things. And so I don't really know what I'm saying about this. I guess you can fill in the blanks. But in any case, so today I had a lot of communications all day. I was planning on making a video talking about the solar flash and what are the possibilities, just because I was just going to upload something to the channel, and I was continuously getting visitors and communications all day. Very powerful. It's been a very emotional day, because the experiences I've had have been very, very emotionally stimulating. So I'm going to be telling you about this experience today, where Pleiadians showed up and they asked me, would you like to know when we first met? Or no, they said, do you remember when we first met? And I was like, I don't know who you are. Tell me who you are. And then that opened up a big dialogue, and they told me a lot of things about the past, as well as history of the Earth and the Earth shift, and that's just become far more interesting and intricate and complicated than I could have imagined. I just have to tell you that, very recently, the past few days especially, the level of energy that I have been feeling, it really does feel like something is coming, and I can't shake the feeling that this world is coming to an end here very quickly. And again, I have no attachment to that. Like I said, I'm not a prophet. I'm not here to, prophesy and then, try and explain if it doesn't happen. I don't need for any of this to be true. I have no idea. I based on everything that's been happening, I have to assume that there is some truth to what I'm picking up. But that's not because, again, I'm attached to it. I don't have any ego around any of this. I hope I've made myself clear on that, because it's quite embarrassing to talk like this. But I'm going to do it. What have I got to lose? So what is happening is I'm feeling like all the different layers of me are starting to come apart. And what I mean by that is that becoming aware that there's a part of me that when we do higher dimensional live guided meditations, there's a part of me that's a much larger, powerful being that's apparently doing things and leading this army of light worker starseeds, you. And you are these enormous, powerful beings, and we are literally changing matter at a fundamental level and changing the world and changing timelines and realities. That there are things that we are doing in these meditations that have far, far more power than anything anybody could be doing here in 3D. It's just, and so, I'm obviously still a 3D human. I still have to do things. I still have 3D limitations. I still have a 3D mind. And yet I have these other experiences. And then I'm having these continuous communications with higher dimensional beings. And, it's what reality has been, which I really appreciate the physicists who are explaining this, is that, the way one person has explained what the brain actually does is it's not a computer. It collapses quantum waves into a single reality. And so I've come to realize that that's what 3D Earth life has been, is that it's all of these versions, all of these higher dimensional versions of ourselves are collapsed into one perceptual experience that we think is this reality. When the truth is, there's it would be like, looking at this deck of rune cards, you just see the one card, but in reality, there's all of these cards in here that make up different levels of, this one experience. And so we experience ourselves as like one, card, and then, all other realities come together and we come apart like this. And as I'm saying that, it makes sense, because if we are going through an Earth shift, like we're shifting to a different frequency of Earth, then it makes sense that all of those things are going to start accordioning, like an accordion. They're going to start fanning out like that before they come back together again in a higher frequency. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. I'm feeling a lot of energy around me, so I'm just going to get right to this. So, yep, Pleiadians tell me how I first met them in Atlantis. So I made a video a while back telling you that I was told that I was king of Atlantis, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, so that story has now become more nuanced and perhaps more complicated and confusing. So, so I'm sitting here on my couch, wasting time and avoiding making my video. And I feel, I get this energy jolt, and I know somebody wants to talk. So I turn everything off and I close my eyes and I go into meditation and I say, yes, I'm here. What would you like to tell me? And a being shows up again. I'm not seeing anything. I'm feeling them, and I'm getting telepathic messages, and tons of higher dimensional energy is coming with it, and I'm interpreting as best I can what is being told to me. And being shows up and says, do you remember when we first met? As I said that, I'm still getting, it's like, anyway, a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. So do you remember when we first met? And I wrote it down because I knew I'd probably forget it, so I'll just read to you what I wrote. So beings arrive and ask, do you remember when you first met us? And I said, who are you? And they said, we are the Atlanteans. And then I got this, I don't know where this came from, but I got this feeling, and I said, are you Pleiadians? And they said, yes, we founded Atlantis. So that confused me, because I was like, so hang on, was Atlantis, were extraterrestrials living on Atlantis and human beings living on other, it wasn't quite making sense, and the feeling was like, it's going to be difficult for you to understand, and I said, okay, I'm just going to listen and I'll try and figure it out later. So, and again, I'm giving you like a script, but understand I'm getting these telepathic messages, and I'm doing my best to try and translate it into 3D human language. And it's probably far more nuanced and complicated than this, but this is the best I could do in the moment. So I said, so you're Pleiadians? And they said, yes, we founded Atlantis. And then go on to say, we came to your planet, and you, meaning me as king, invited them to live among us. So you invited us to live among you. We founded Atlantis and taught you many things. Now, that's just one sentence. We founded Atlantis, but what I'm seeing and experiencing in my mind is what the mythology says. Because the way Plato describes it is that the Atlanteans were demigods. They weren't humans. They were like gods walking among people. And as I said earlier, this happened in Kali Yuga. Excuse me, not Kali Yuga. In Satya Yuga. At least 13,000 years ago, when we were in the height of the spiritual higher frequency Earth, and we were, it wasn't unusual for gods to come and live among humans, and that was normal. That's why mythology talks like that. It's not symbolic. I'm realizing it's literal. That's what goes on in Satya Yuga, in that higher frequency. So they say, we founded Atlantis. We came to your planet and you invited us to live among you. We founded Atlantis and taught you many things. Now, again, I'm writing many things, but what I'm seeing in my mind is they are teaching us these spiritual technologies, like the Maoshan practices I'm teaching you. That's the same kind of stuff, man. It's coming from that level of power. But we're, of course, this is Satya Yuga, and we're creating these, these incredible, powerful technological devices that are using spiritual energies to, can't even begin to, I can't even begin to fathom the kind of stuff we were doing. That's all packed into that sentence. We taught you many things. We lived with you in happiness and peace for many years. I got the feeling that many years meant many thousands of years, perhaps tens of thousands of years. The yugas began a descending cycle, so you remember what I've showed you here, right? And, if you're going through this kind of thing, you might have the first thought that I do, well, I've been researching this, so I'm making this up. Another way to look at it is, I've been researching this, I've been led to research this, so that I would be able to understand the communication when it comes. So that's one way to look at it. But where are the yugas? So, right, so remember this. So we've got this, everything you've heard about yugas, unless you already knew the Kriya Yoga understanding of the yugas. The yugas didn't last millions upon millions of years, and we're not in this Kali Yuga that lasts millions and millions of years like most people have been taught. It's a wrong understanding. The yugas last for 24,000 years, and they're split in half. So the first half is the yugas rise. So it starts from Kali Yuga to Dwapara to Treta to Satya. So it's rising in frequency. And then when it gets to the peak of that, then it starts to descend, and so you go backwards, and so Satya Yuga descends into Tretya, and descends into Dwapara, and then descends into Kali Yuga, and then it goes back up again. So this is how the cycle of the yugas work. And as we can see here, as I showed you here, Atlantis sunk somewhere around 9,000 BC, so about 12,000 years. And you can see it's after the yugas begin to devolve, so it takes a little time before there's that huge Younger Dryas cataclysm event where everything just, and I recommend you guys do this. There's tons of really cool information on YouTube now about the cataclysm event and the floods, and it's really phenomenal. I won't get into it because it's so amazing and it's so scientifically accurate that now we're seeing all this stuff. And there's some really cool information about how Atlantis wasn't an island in the middle of the Atlantic. It was during a period of time when it was in the during the ice ages, and the topography of the Earth was very different, and it was a city that was inland, but there was like an inland sea that went in, and anyway. So that was really on the coast of Africa. It wasn't out in the ocean, in the middle of the Atlantic. But assuming that's right. Anyway, I'm digressing here. Right. Let me get back to. My brain is trying to distract me here. Let me get back to the. So we came to your planet, you invited us to live among you. We founded Atlantis and taught you many things. We lived with you in happiness and peace for many years. The yugas began a descending cycle, and people started to act with greed and violence. Then they tell me, you wanted to protect the earth, and you tried to control people. So I might get emotional here. I mean, I was in tears when they were telling me this, because and they said, at some point today, somebody said, we're going to give you some information that's going to be hard for you to hear. So this was painful for me to hear. So the yugas began a descending cycle, and people started to act with greed and violence. Now, as I'm saying that, I'm imagining that I am, energetically ruling the earth, which meant I was protecting it. Didn't mean I was like ruling, it was like my job was to protect it. And to that I was also sort of like this demigod being, and I was using my energy to protect the earth. If I open that accordion up even farther, I go higher and higher, and then I'm remembering that I'm one of the beings that decided to create the Earth experiment to begin with. And then so, there's multiple expressions of me going all the way down to the lower vibrations, where there's a part of me that's a human king, and then there's a part of me that's, higher dimensional. All of this is all interconnected, and so all of these things are coming into my mind as I'm being told this. It's a very powerful experience, especially afterwards. Then I try and think about what was said, and all of these other layers start, coming into it. So, I'm giving you one sentence, and one sentence is being given to me, and all of this stuff is inside this one sentence. You wanted to protect the earth, and you tried to control people, meaning energetically. We advised against this. Okay, so I was writing as fast as I could so that I would remember the basics of it. So you wanted to protect the earth, and you tried to control people. That meant I was using spiritual technology, and I was trying to create and invent and install spiritual technology around the world to keep the frequency up. And it's making me emotional. Think about it. I don't know why. My brain doesn't know why I'm so emotional about it. But because it was intolerable to me to be thinking about that there were people out there, the supposed, primitive people out there who were causing violence and creating, horrible things, doing horrible things to other people, conquering other people, enslaving other people. I don't know what depth of it was, but that's what I felt. Maybe I was seeing what was coming, and I was seeing people's actions, because I wanted to use spiritual technology to create a bubble around the earth, and that is what I believe the pyramids were. I believe the pyramids were a huge undertaking that I'm not remembering this. I'm deducing maybe that if I was king, that was something I said we're going to do. That's a power place that we can cover the entire earth with this energy field, and it worked at first. But I was using this technology and creating, or whatever, facilitating the creation of these technologies to create this bubble of protection around the earth so that people wouldn't descend into what I saw was coming. And so the Pleiadians were advising against this. They were telling me not to do that. And apparently I was very stubborn, and I disagreed with them, and I used the technology that we had created together, which of course they had a huge part in teaching us how to use these spiritual technologies. And so I disagreed, and I used the technology in things like pyramids and things like that in an attempt to keep us in Satya Yuga. And then this part, I forgot that I wrote this, but this part, I was just in tears when I heard this. It's very hard to hear. And they said, you wage war against violent, greedy people. I don't know what that means, but warfare is warfare. And it failed, and all of the things that I had tried to do failed. And as a result, it created the Younger Dryas catastrophe. So I think I talked about that before, that that if you look here, there's that line in the middle, and so that's when things were start to just calmly start to descend. And I didn't want that to happen. I couldn't tolerate the thought of people's consciousness descending. So anyway, I did whatever I did, and so that created a tension, because the frequency of the earth was actually trying to dip downwards, and I was holding it at a spot probably for thousands of years. And as I say that, I'm getting a lot of energy, and it created a tension in the frequency, and it snapped one day. It snapped. And if you look inside the pyramids, there's evidence that there was explosions inside the pyramids, and there was this huge Younger Dryas cataclysm event. And now that it makes sense, when you realize that you have over the earth, you've got huge sheets of ice 1 mile to 2 miles thick. And one of people have said there couldn't have been a comet to cause the Younger Dryas, because there's no craters. But that's assuming that it hits actual Earth crust. But if you've got ice that are 2 miles thick, and you've got comets that aren't planet killers, I can imagine them crashing into ice sheets and exploding and melting all of that ice and causing all kinds of problems. And you're not going to see a crater from that. Although there are craters. If you look, I won't get into it, I've been really studying it lately. Anyway, again, I'm distracting myself because this is painful. My attempt to keep the frequency at a higher state failed, and everything came crashing down. And the Earth frequency crashed down in one day. What should have happened over, a couple thousand years. And the way that was expressed physically was that entire civilizations were wiped off the planet. The sinking of Atlantis, and there were many other civilizations that were just wiped off the face of the planet. And then there was the flooding event and all of that. And anyway, so that was the physical representation of that. But at one point I asked them, I said, so when we get to the new frequency of Earth, are we going to create another Atlantis? And they said, "Oh, Atlantis is still there." And that made me very happy. I was very emotional about that. They said, "Atlantis is still there. It's just that your frequency popped down, and when your frequency popped down, there are things that couldn't come with you. And Atlantis was one of them." The way that expressed that self was that there was these physical things that happened that wiped out the cities and all that, but that's just the way that your brains had to interpret what was happening. But Atlantis is still there. It's perfectly fine. It's on a higher frequency. It still exists. So they said, "No, it's still there. You'll see it. You'll be fine. It's beautiful." And anyway, and that taught me a lot about multiple frequencies. Let me just read because I wrote it down here. So, let's see. My attempt to keep the frequency failed and created the Younger Dryas catastrophe. They say, "You fell from your higher frequency," meaning me personally. Like I personally fell. I lost it. "You lost your power over Earth," meaning my rulership over Earth. "You realized your mistake. Your contemporaries waged war and defeated you, and you lost your power. You then had to continuously reincarnate to learn about humility and surrender. Because what I did wrong was I should have just allowed things to change. And I couldn't tolerate the thought of people going downwards. I couldn't tolerate it. And I thought I knew what I was doing. I was pulled down into a reincarnation cycle that's been going on for 12,000 years. I'm feeling very emotional about this. I've had a lot of really challenging lives. What was interesting is my ex-wife, who I divorced. We didn't get along. And at that time I was trying to keep my acting career going. And this is when my acting career, fell apart. So my last ditch effort was I wrote a film, and I filmed it and took it to film festivals and things like that. And I was very upset because I didn't, I wasn't successful in my acting career. And she said, I don't know how she knew this. She said, "You used to be a king, and you're not supposed to be famous in this life." I said, "How do you know that?" She says, "I don't know how I know that." She just somehow knew that. But so for 12,500 years I've been, bouncing along, having really low-level crappy, difficult lives without any, success or fame or anything like that. And apparently this is why. So, you realize your mistake. Your contemporaries waged war and defeated you. I get the feeling that I was killed and then reincarnated, in all the lives I just described. And you then had to continuously reincarnate to learn about humility and surrender. Then they go on, they say, we have returned to you to help you back into your throne. You are now ready to bring balance back to Earth. I have no idea why I'm so emotional. I don't remember any of this. This is some kind of strange fantasy, novel. So this is what came out of that understanding of that as I started seeing it and looking at it. I wrote this. There are multiple Earth frequencies controlled by different galactic civilizations. See, this is why you should write this down. I forgot I wrote this. Let me fill in that. So Earth. Okay, I'll just read it. Earth is a multi-galactic experiment in consciousness, meaning that multiple galaxies are coming together and cooperating on this experiment. Each one of them has their own version. So there's a Pleiadian version at a Pleiadian frequency, and that's going on, and they're doing whatever they're doing and learning whatever they're learning. I assume that mine is what's the other galaxy? The galaxy an Andromedan. So I'm assuming the one that we're in is an Andromedan. I just got some energy. I said that. That's an Andromedan frequency. So apparently I am responsible for that. There's all these different frequencies of Earth, and all of the different galaxies are working together. So they overlap and merge with each other. So, there can be various aspects of them that merge, which would explain why, for instance, Sasquatch can come in and out of our third dimension, because perhaps for them they're part of a multi-galactic connection, or who knows what, and they're able to move in between the different various Earths. And to them it may not seem like that to them. I don't know. But if you know anything about Sasquatch, I experienced them. I made videos about it, and people who have seen their footprints in giant snow, empty, snow fields with no trees for, miles all around, the tracks will just disappear, like a mile in. There's just simply no way for those tracks to have disappeared. Some giant being is walking around, unless somebody, helicoptered them out. What it means is they just shifted into a different frequency of Earth. And so we're watching, they would just disappear. They're gone. They're somewhere else. Let's see. The frequency. So Earth is a multi-galactic experiment in consciousness. Other Earth frequencies are governed by other galactic organizations. And so that's the way it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be that, as we talk about, we're going into this new 5D Earth where we will have access to other civilizations and all that. It means that our frequency will be back in sync with all of the other frequencies, which means there won't be any separation between us and other dimensions and other civilizations. It makes me sad thinking about it, that. And I'm going to stop beating myself up. I just hope that I'm not responsible for that. That would make me extremely sad. So, other Earth frequencies are governed by other galactic organizations. This frequency shift that we're experiencing is an opportunity to become part of a greater collaboration with other Earth frequencies. I'm being awakened into my ongoing role as administrator of the Earth experiment, and we can now choose to merge our Earth frequency with other galactic experiments. And then I start going off on other tangents, which I think just me guessing at stuff, so I won't go into that. I guess I will a little bit. There's animals here on this Earth that are found in other galactic ETs. For instance, cats. Felines. There are feline beings. There are these guys, the mantis beings, and others. And I believe that all of these different beings, create animals, and populate the Earth. Hey, this would be a cool animal. Let's represent us here. And apparently, I'm guessing that humans are the Andromedan expression. Okay, so I guess that might mean that there are Earths where there aren't just humans walking around, but there's humans and mantises and cat beings and who knows whatever else. Maybe that's where all of the, the other, all the other races of beings that we think are mythological, like, fairies and dwarves and gnomes, and maybe those are alien extraterrestrial beings that are expressing themselves there. That's their expression. Anyway, I'm just guessing. So I'm reading this part here where they said I'm being awakened into my ongoing role as administrator of the Earth. There's a lot behind that, which is that earlier today, Being showed up and said, we want to talk. So I went, oh, great. And I went into meditation and went to my 5D Earth place. And anyway, I was very intense and emotional because my fiance who passed away, I believe that she's there in some form. And it's very difficult for me to accept that because if I miss her so much. And the thought of being with her again is I can't imagine anything that I'd like more. I want it more than anything else. And so if I allow myself to believe that, and I'm disappointed, it'll make me very sad. So that's a really challenging thing to accept. But when I was there this last time, and I'm like I'm really wanting to believe it, because I can't escape this feeling that this shift is coming real soon, and it doesn't make any sense to this 3D brain. So I'm trying to really be there, and I'm really trying to see it, and I'm saying, is this real? Is this real? Am I really this king of Earth thing? And it worked, but the response was, you've never stopped. You've always been this. This is just a huge life that you've been. What you're experiencing right now is just one tiny little dream inside of this huge life. You're going to wake up, and it will be like it never ended, and this 3D life will be just a dream that you had. So it's not you're gonna wake up and you're gonna remember all of this, just like when you wake up, in 3D, you've had a dream and you wake up and you go, oh yeah, that's right. And then you remember, even though in the dream you were just having, you were somebody else in a different world, completely, totally different life. And that person in that dream remembers nothing of your actual 3D self. It's going to be the same. When we make that shift, you're going to wake up and you're going to go, oh yeah. Oh, and I was feeling it. And they were saying, you've never stopped. You're gonna wake up and realize who you are. You've never stopped. And it was like starting to all click back together, and I could feel like a coherence. It's a little bit, not a lot, of course. And it was very emotional. Anyway, so that's my latest stuff. As I said, I'm no longer going to hide anything from you guys. I can't tell you what's real and what's not. I'm choosing to believe this. The energy is just so undeniable. I cannot deny the power and the energy when it hits. And if I put everything else together, it all makes sense. Mandela effect, that's a real thing. The truth behind, what the dark forces are doing is a real thing. Extraterrestrials are a real thing. I mean, it's so real that even mainstream news and the Pentagon want to keep telling you that extraterrestrials are real. So even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to my 3D brain, there's so much evidence that's telling me that what I'm experiencing is real. It's very possible I might be conflating, I might be projecting, I might be delusional about some things. The toughest part is not having an agenda, not having a personal desire attached to the messages that you're getting. So it's very possible. I know I've worked with people, who do that. They get real messages and they conflate and they project. So I see it in other people, so I know I must be doing it, or at least there's the possibility that I'm doing it. Having said that, I can't deny that. But if we're here a year from now, we'll talk about it then. We'll figure it out then. All right, so that's it for me. I really don't care about it. I just do it just for the sake of trying to be practical. Thunderwizard.com, that's what supports the channel. You can also just click the $ button, on YouTube, and that will give me some support if you feel so inclined. All right, that's it, guys. I was going to talk about Solar Flash is almost here, and I was going to go through a list of things. What did I do with that list? I was going to go through a list of things, but we'll do that in another video. All right, my friends, thank you so much. I love you all, and I hope that you're surviving these energy shifts. And again, if you're losing your marbles and you need to talk about it, we do have this live group Zoom class every first and third Friday. You can be a part of that by going to thunderwizard.com and subscribing. Anyway, I hope that was entertaining, and I'll see you guys all very soon. Please take very good care of yourself.